All right, back at it. Good morning. Thanks for tuning in. Mornings with Mark, episode 95. Back after a little bit of a break. Had a much needed vacation, chilled out, coming back with a little bit of a different approach to the show, a little re-energized. Before I took a break, I had mentioned that a friend of mine had called out that there's not a lot of great info around cybersecurity basics, how people who are either interested in cybersecurity as a career or just generally interested in the topic, it's really hard for them to ramp up. So I'm going to start a series out around that. And coming back after this little break, doing things a little bit differently. We're live this morning on Periscope, which is also on Twitter, also on Twitch, and hopefully on Facebook if everything's working well. This is the beauty of live streaming. I can't jump off to check, otherwise you'd just be looking at the background, which is boring as all get out. If not, I'll be posting this episode all there, and as always, you can join us on the podcast. So always looking for comments, always looking for feedback. Hit me up down below in whatever video platform you're seeing. If you're listening to the podcast, hit me up, me@markn.ca by email. Always looking to chat about today's topic, any other topics. This is really a viewer or audience-driven show, and it only works if I get that feedback and we have that discussion. And as always, you can hit me up online at marknca on most social networks. So what I wanted to talk about was the importance of basics before I get into there and sort of tell you how I'm going to tackle this topic of the basics and what's going on. So one of the things I think is that people need information in various formats. Video obviously is a big one. Podcast is a big one, and text. And it needs to be sort of a combo of those three to make sense. So one of the things that we're going to be doing is tackling some of the basics in Mornings with Mark, which means we'll probably hit one or two topics, some definitions around the same sort of subject area, and then I'll tighten those up and I'll publish a series of sort of sub 2-minute videos on the Trend Micro handle. That's my full-time employer. I'm the VP of Cloud Research there, and I think that'll be really useful for the larger Trend Micro audience as well as the Mornings with Mark audience. So we'll be doing that, and I'll also try to create on markn.ca a landing page of sort of the basics, how to get there, how to get started, and we'll add to that continuously, and that'll complement the how to get your started on your cybersecurity career playlist on YouTube. So lots of different areas. Don't worry, you don't have to know them all. Just hit me up online at marknca so that you can follow along, and of course, stay tuned to the show here. So there was an issue over the weekend that I wanted to address that isn't basics, but it highlights why the basics are super important. So there's a positive Facebook story. Who would have believed? Who would have thunk it? A positive Facebook story, or at least semi-positive, or potential to be positive. The U.S. government is suing Facebook. That's not a positive thing, but they're suing Facebook very similar to the DOJ suit against the FBI in 2016. Now, I have a big article up about that. I'll tweet that out again and link to that in the comments below. But basically, the DOJ in 2016 sued Apple to create a backdoor to break encryption to get into a suspect's phone. Once again, the U.S. government is suing for a similar thing, in this case in Facebook Messenger, to break the end-to-end encryption for a chat. Now, as a user, there's a lot of terms thrown around where you might think like, if you read just one side of this, it seems like the government is trying to get a lawful wiretap on a service. But that's not actually what's going on. There are many ways that most jurisdictions can get lawful access to communications through a subpoena, through a warrant, through some sort of judicial oversight process. What is happening in this case, again, and why it's important that you understand the basics, which ties to the bigger series that's coming, is that the suit actually requests that Facebook changes its software to break the security for everybody for this one case. And it's very much like a precedent-seeking, it's a cherry-picked lawsuit to try to get this to happen. They are looking, the U.S. government in this case is looking to find one large tech provider that they can set a precedent on so they can go to the other ones. At least that's the assumption here. That's a bad thing. We as users want secure systems. We want systems that are secure by default, that are encrypted end-to-end. Now what that means is if I am chatting with you, the only people that can read those messages are the ones on my device and on your receiving device. The intermediate service, whether that's Facebook, iMessage, WhatsApp, whatever the case may be, they can't read those messages. They just see a conversation. So they see the metadata about that conversation. They see that I'm talking to you and we talked, 38 different messages changed hands, but they don't know what is in there. Only the devices that are involved in that chat can read it. So from my end to your end, it's encrypted. There's no intermediate steps. That's really important. That's a great security design, and we want things like that in place, because as much as there are bad scenarios, in this case it's an MS-13 gang member, in the previous case it was a San Bernardino shooter, there are bad cases, but you need to remember the millions and millions of positive uses and offset that, and that's very rarely done in these cases. So I think that kind of article for me really highlights the need for basics. That's what's coming. Obviously, Recharge back with a new approach to the show, sort of multi-streaming on different channels. We're going to see how this works. Give me your feedback, as always. Hit me up in the comments down below. By email me at markn.ca, or hit me up on social, mark@marknca. Looking forward to your feedback here. What do you need from the basics? What do you think from the approach? Are you just tuning into the show? What do you think? What do you need? Let me know. That's a lot. Got to get back into the swing of this. I will talk to you tomorrow. Have a fantastic day today. Take care.